Hello, my name is Kelly Gadikin, and I will be talking about the Integrated Solid Waste Management in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So for a little bit of background on Addis Ababa, it's located in Africa, kind of on the eastern side, and it's got quite a big population. Addis Ababa is the capital of Ethiopia, and it has around 2.8 million people, which for reference is over the size of Chicago in the United States. So some of the background on it: it wasn't really a noticeable place until the late 1800s, and in 1892 one of the emperors built his palace there, which made it the capital of Ethiopia. It was occupied by Italy for a few years, from 1936 to 1941, and this is important because a lot of roads were paved and a lot of infrastructure was built, which is important for the waste management. It's important to note, though, that it wasn't really democratic until recently. It operated under emperor and then a Marxist-Leninist regime for a while. So even though it has democracy right now, it still has a lot of that hierarchy structure that's left over from those regimes, and that's going to be important as well for the waste management. A little bit about the environment. So Addis Ababa is located in this green area, kind of in central Ethiopia, and so that's kind of below the highlands, but not quite into the valley area. And there's a lot of erosion for the soils due to human influence, and the existing soils are a lot of clays. For vegetation, there's a lot of dry evergreen forests, grasslands, and some woody grasslands and forests. And there's not a lot of wildlife within the city itself, but you might see like foxes, jackals, wild dogs, or hyenas in the surrounding area. So going on to some of the policy concerns. So the EPA defines the Integrated Solid Waste Management as a comprehensive waste prevention, recycling, composting, and disposal program. So within this, there are informal and formal actors, and this is going to be the root of some of the controversy for Addis Ababa. So formal actors are going to be those employed by the local government, international organizations, and NGOs. So a formal actor would be one that's operating a collection truck like you see in the picture. So informal actors, though, would be scavengers that are at the landfill, the junk buyers that have usually little carts that go around either door to door or buy things from scavengers, and then you have the wholesalers and the retailers that buy materials from the junk buyers and the scavengers. So why this is kind of an issue. So for collection, this is a really big part. So if you have a formal actor who works with the government or the city, you can take a collection truck and it can run through larger areas that have paved roads where people can put out their trash for collection, and it's pretty easily done. But there's also a lot of crowded settlements in Addis Ababa, like in the lower picture, and you can see it'd be very difficult to run a collection truck through this area, and these are pretty common. So Addis Ababa currently has informal actors that are not employed by the city that have a system either going door to door or bringing their carts through the little alleyways or meeting people outside of their area. And so there's kind of an informal system already going. So this is one of the big issues that Addis Ababa is trying to address, is how would you have formal actors with collection trucks going through some of these crowded settlements. Another part is the processing, reuse, and removal of waste. So we mentioned that the scavengers and the junk buyers have this material that they then sell to the wholesalers and retailers. This is a big part of the informal waste market. And you can see from these pictures, this is part of the Man Elah Elashtara, which is in Mercado, one of the biggest open-air markets in the area. And you can see just from the pictures the amount of plastic material that's on top of the roofs of some of these stalls or on the ground waiting for someone to buy it or to be reused. So this is a really big part of the informal actors sphere that doesn't include the formal actors just yet. The other way to deal with the waste is to take stuff to the landfill, which is called REPI, but it also has some other names. This was opened in 1964, but it is very much improperly managed. It doesn't have a liner, it does not have leachate removal systems, and the waste is not covered with soil, so you could have insect infestations, but they also can't cover it with soil at the end of each day because there's a lot of scavengers. There's about 500 or so people that will scavenge there regularly. And the junk buyers and the wholesale and retailers in this informal waste market, there are thousands of people that are informally employed through this system. The landfill also experiences frequent landslides. The biggest one actually killed over 100 people just recently. So there are issues with that. One of the formal things that the government has done was create this waste-to-energy plant, which burns about 80% of Addis Ababa's daily refuse, and it produces around 30% of the residential electrical needs. So it burns about 1,400 tons per day. So this is really good. It still has some byproducts, like it creates ash from the burning process. And then they also have to make sure that their scrubbers are up to date, and they have to have enough money to manage those. So right now, Addis Ababa is kind of at the crossroads of trying to include or not include the informal actors in their waste management plan. Right now, they are favoring not including them, and that goes back to the hierarchy structure that I mentioned earlier. So the scavengers and the junk buyers are kind of the lowest occupation that you could have, and it's not even really a sanctioned occupation. So formal actors that work with the government would be more respected and reputable than the informal actors right now, just because of the hierarchy system. So other countries have made it kind of work where they can include the informal actors as an official occupation. Addis Ababa is still trying to figure out how to do that right now. So that will be the main issue to address in the future. And here are some references for you to look at, and I thank you for listening.